Welcome, everyone. I am Friar Tuck, and I'm answering a question from a subscriber today. I was asked if homelessness has been a protected class or semi-protected class. Has homelessness ever been a protected class? And homelessness as itself is not a protected class. Now, some people might say, "Hey, well, it's a economic status, or it's a status within society," but your economic status is not a protected class. People can discriminate against you if you're poor or if you're rich, but they cannot discriminate against you for your race, your creed, which is basically your religion, and your race, your creed, your gender. There's quite a few of them, but it's generally directed at the minority community. And although you might think that homelessness it makes it a minority problem, no, it's an American problem. It has nothing to do with minorities, because although you could say that disproportionately there are more blacks out here than there are other races. You could make that argument, but you could also make another argument that men are 80% of the homeless population. And so women only make up 20% of the homeless population. So again, would it be on gender? There's still, it's, there is, homelessness does not discriminate. If you have money, you have a place to stay. If you don't have money, you don't have a place to stay. And that's pretty simply, how it is. But if you are, let's say, a person of color, if you are like a female, because, females are protected class, but men are not, because, it's a man's world, and that's what we've been taught. And so therefore, if you fit into any of these subcategories, yes, you're protected, but what are you protected from? And how do you go through the process of, asserting your rights if you feel that you are being discriminated? And just because you feel that you are being discriminated against doesn't necessarily mean that you are being discriminated against, because it's very hard to be able to prove this in the court of law. There has to be some direct inference to your minority status, whether it be the color of your skin or your gender, or your sexual orientation, things like that. There has to be an actual innuendo to it. So, for example, if I say something like, I start talking about the rainbow crowd, well, that's kind of a little bit combative to the rainbow crowd. And then I say, well, I'm not going to hire you. Well, I mean, I could come up with other reasons, but because I put the reference to the rainbow crowd, there is a potential inference, and then you got to go through the court of law and prove something like that. People have so many different ways to discriminate against you that they don't even really need to discriminate against you based upon your color, even though that might be their overall intention, what they really feel. They are using other things to be able to go against you. Things that I've had to deal with when dealing with discrimination, being homeless, is mostly around my dog. I've had customers try and run me out of restaurants, and because they didn't like the dog. But they just used the dog as a way to be able to come after me, more or less, not just because I had a dog, but I had a dog and I was homeless. And so there is, even though they were going after the dog, a lot of it was also directed at me because of my status in life. But because I am not of the right color, because I am not of the right gender, I do not get any protected measures. And so therefore it is okay to be able to discriminate against me, and therefore society has made it perfectly okay to be able to say it's okay to discriminate against this group but not this group, and this group, well, even though they're the ones that are being protected, it's okay for them to discriminate. And so therefore we're picking winners and losers and using social justice as a way to be able to subjugate others to make ourselves feel better. And that's really what discrimination is. As someone who grew up in a family that had some racial ties, my grandfather was a member of the Klan, at least from what I was told, which helped me understand why he treated me the way he did. But the hatred is taught from generation to generation, and it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, whether you're the one giving it or whether you're the one receiving it. It's not going to be fun on either way, because those who give it will receive it, and those who receive it will give it, because what you do to others, others will do to you. And so therefore, although we are not responsible for the sins of our father, we are paying the consequences for the sins of our father, because we have refused to let a grudge go, and we are constantly seeking vengeance and vindication, therefore fueling the constant pendulum of one extreme to the other. And so at one point now, women were subjugated, and now we're moving to a point where men may end up becoming subjugated. And a lot of this also boils down to the fact that we're not willing to let bygones be bygones, understand that this is part of our natural evolution. It shows us a part of ourselves, of who we are, the hatred that we can have towards another person, or towards those within our own species. And it should at least bring us to a point where we should be asking questions of not only how do we let hatred like this be created, but how are we allowing it, and why would we allow it to continue to fester, and the flames to be fanned over time. Because discrimination is discrimination. It doesn't matter whether it's based upon color or based upon status in life. We have discernment and the right to choose who we want to associate with, but being out in the public, we are all one. We are a collective, and so therefore your personal preferences don't matter, because it's not about association. You have the right to discriminate who you want to have your friends and lovers be, but you do not have the right to discriminate who you do and don't do business with based upon prefabricated criteria that is based upon hate of someone because they are different from you. But this is a pretty loaded subject. Like I said, it was in the beginning. I hope that this kind of sheds light on not just affirmative action and the and just kind of how we are switching from one extreme to another as a society, but to also understand that just because you're a protected class doesn't actually make you a protected class, because there are so many different ways that we can legally discriminate against each other, that although that is the underlying premise, being a protected class really doesn't matter unless you're dealing with the government. That's the only time in which a protected class will ever be upheld, is when dealing with the government, because they're the ones that created it, and they're the ones that are abiding by these rules. But it does not mean that we have to abide by these rules. There's no way to be able to enforce these types of rules that force people to go against whatever it is that they were taught or their natural instinct. Okay, so I hope this helped you guys. You know how to help the channel. Memberships, come on over to Patreon if you want to know what my homeless lifestyle is like, if you want to see some behind the scenes there. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Thanks for being here.